Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of DogCatFox and Friend. I'm the friend. He's DogCatFox. Wowie, wow, wow. And we're here to talk to you about the news stories of the week that you might have missed otherwise, that I found interesting at least. So there you go. That's the show. Thanks for coming. No, just kidding. Hope everybody's doing well on this Saturday afternoon. And speaking of this Saturday afternoon, who's joining me on this Saturday afternoon? Advocatus Diaboli. Hello. The Alexander. Hello. Juliet. Good afternoon or evening, as the case may be. Mike R. Hello. JB. Hello. Keeverdam. Hello. And thank you, Keeverdam, as always, for providing the link at the top of the chat box, guys, to the Leukemia Lymphoma Society donation page. Please take a look at that when you have the opportunity. If you can donate, please do so. But even if you can't, if you can share that out on social media, that would be appreciated. So thank you ahead of time for that. And thank you, Keeverdam, as always, for providing the link. Kiro Soldier, good afternoon. Who else is here? Anybody else? Random American, hello. And Corbin Dallas. Lilu Dallas Multipass, hello. Attack Alpaca, hello. Pip Bin. Pip Bin. I haven't said that name in a while. How's it going, Pip Bin? Nice to see you. John Trioxin, hello. And Blue-Eyed Scream, hello. And anybody else that I missed or is lurking or is in the future, hello. So yeah, I hope everybody's had a good day so far. If you weren't able to catch me and Undoomed doing Stream of Consciousness for 3 hours, a 3-hour tour last night, well, it's there for you if you want to, on the channel. And Darren M, hello. And Tack Alpaca, thank you so much for the how's it going, DogCatFox. Oh, DogCatFox.
Wowie, wow, wow.
Oh, there's a ranting monkey, DogCatFox. Thank you, Tack Alpaca. Appreciate it. But, yeah, we got a lot of interesting stories today. Where shall we start? How about robot boats? You guys like robot boats? Yes, one more sign that we are just 3 steps closer to Skynet taking over the world. Robot boats. Let me click off that pop-up and get to that. Yes. U.S. Navy's first fully autonomous ship takes the port of Everett waters. You sunk my robot ship. Everett, Washington. A historical feat of engineering has come together right here in the Puget Sound. The U.S. Navy's first ever fully autonomous vessel, which can sail without a crew, has been christened in the port of Everett. The ship, named the USX-1 Defiant, notably lacking a Captain Sisko, is the prototype resulting from about 5 years of work by the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, or DARPA. The premise of the project was to find a way to make a naval ship just like a Roomba. Great! Is it going to bump into things incessantly and try to find a way around obstacles? Yes, the circular robot that cleans your kitchen floors. However, the concept, he says? Who's he? There has been no he mentioned in this article so far. All right, whoever wrote this, you need to kind of, if you're going to predicate. Yet, anyway, never mind. However, the concept, he says, whoever he is essentially the same. Did someone delete something from this? Fit the technology for an autonomous program into a big... Please don't tell me that you just plugged in a Roomba to a multi-million-dollar military vessel. I mean, this would be military intelligence, so I could believe it. Quote, for the surface Navy, most of the people on the ship, most of the time, are there just to keep the ship running, explained Greg Avicola, DARPA's program manager in the Tactical Technology Office. So how do we build a Roomba, if you will, that can operate on the ocean for long periods without going in and fixing it every day? And that is the goal of the program, unquote. I don't think you can. I mean, or it would be very difficult. And to what end? The ship was created for much less than usual. Well, how much does a robotic ship usually cost? Avicola says that without having to build a bigger ship to accommodate sailors and naval personnel, along with hallways and control rooms, the ship is actually inherently much smaller, and as a result, more cost-effective too. Okay. Additionally, he says the prototype, so it's just the one, okay, can be produced at less sophisticated ship bases. For instance, Defiant was partly assembled at the Everett Ship Repair Yard, which created its hull with wiring and piping. That yard is considered a Tier 3 shipyard, which usually means fishing vessels, tugboats, and yachts. Quote, by designing the ship this way, we can touch all of those that are untouched industrial bases. We can touch all of those that are untouched industrial bases and use them for stuff like this, Avicola said. Quote, we can also repair the ship at a yard like that, so that's a critical thing. Defiant was the culmination of that ambition, and on Monday, August 11th, it had its traditional christening ceremony to be given a name and have wishes of safe sails ahead to nothing, except its lifeless husk. Quote, the fact that I got to see it from inception to the end is really gratifying, said Avicola. Good. Defiant will now have to pass one final test, which comes in the form of a long voyage out on the open seas, facing different sea conditions and navigating itself all on its own, no crew members aboard. Then, Avicola says, the prototype can be turned over to the Navy to determine how it will be implemented. I got a feeling not very well, because you just set it to go, and what is it supposed... It doesn't take directions? You just say, okay, ship, go to this place, and then it just goes there all by itself to do what? Is it a military platform? Is it observational? Does it do something else? And exactly how much did this thing cost in development and building and everything else? I got a feeling, it's cheaper than most. Yeah, maybe cheaper on the materials angle. I bet it was still expensive in the development and research. But anyway, guys, yeah, robot boats. Sailors, not required. There you go. Do you have any naval personnel or Navy brats in the chat that can speak on this? The Dead Man, hello. Let me turn down the music a little bit. It's a little loud in my ears. Just a smidge. Who else is there? Mr. X, good afternoon. Advocatus, how long till we find one of these boats smuggling fentanyl for spare cash? Yeah. Or something similar. It will definitely be smuggling something, yeah. JB Tugboats. Mobuj 5947. Captain Dunsel? Maybe. Mike Savage. Blarg. Blue-eyed Scream. I don't trust autonomous driving vehicles. Makes me nervous. Yeah, that's the other thing, too. We still haven't quite gotten down. I suppose there are conceivably less things to crash into on the open seas than on a highway. But fully autonomous. It can't be fully autonomous. We're sending it somewhere. It's being given directions. But, yeah, anyway. So there you go, guys. Robot boats. At least one. We've built one, guys. We built one prototype autonomous ship. That's just a concept, but it's the Defiant? I thought there already was a naval ship called the Defiant. Or maybe that's an aircraft carrier or something. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. Because, boats. I'm on a boat. Everybody look at me because I'm sailing on a boat. In the rest of the world of robotic things, or non-human computer intelligences, take a look at an article over on The Bleeding Fool, which is run by my Midnight's Edge in the Morning friend, Chris Brawley, talking about, and I mentioned this last night to Undoomed, and now here's an article all about it. Will showrunner kill cinema? Amazon-backed AI tool creates video content, via text prompts. Filmmakers, educators, and industry veterans are sounding the alarm over a new Amazon-backed artificial intelligence tool that allows anyone to produce their own TV shows without a crew, scriptwriters, or a studio. It sounds like what Marvel does right now. Aha! Aha! The system, called Showrunner, comes from tech company Fable. When I think of Fable, I think of like Lion's Head Studios and what's that guy's name? Molyneux or whatever. First game was okay. The other games are kind of bleh. And has that new one come out yet with like the really completely unappealing female, male-ish character? I don't remember. I don't keep track of those things. Tech company Fable, and promotes itself as the Netflix of AI. If you say so. With only text prompts, users can build animated series from the ground up, generating characters, writing dialogue, voicing performances, and creating music scores, all without traditional production teams. Users simply input short text prompts from a few sentences describing characters and setting to more detailed scene-by-scene scripts. The AI then generates storyboards, animates characters, voices dialogue, and stitches it all together into watchable episodes. The rollout is beginning at universities in the United Arab Emirates. Interesting choice, where the technology is already stirring up controversy. Professor Peter Bentley, an AI and, quote, creativity expert, unquote, at University College London, calls Showrunner, quote, remarkably quick and easy to use, but says it works best when rehashing storylines from existing films and TV shows. Creating something completely new still isn't its strong suit. I mean, for now, give it 2 years. Who knows what'll happen? Still, concern is spreading in the film community, and some Hollywood professionals warn that giving fans the power to rewrite or fix flops like Star Wars: The Last Jedi or The Matrix Resurrections could chip away at jobs and diminish the human craft of filmmaking. Well, this is the ultimate danger, the danger zone. Once you put things out into the world that take away craft and creativity and art and labor and everything, it becomes increasingly tempting to use it versus the old school, right? Recently saw this with the... now, I haven't watched it yet, but I read an article about it because I'm an article reader, about the King of the Hill reboot that just recently came out, the resurrection of King of the Hill. And there was an article talking about how so many people were struck by the change in animation style from how it was back when the show was originally broadcast back in the late the 2000s or so, and how it looks now. And the people who produced the new version of the show said, well, that's because the tools and the style and the skills that existed to make that animation style back then doesn't exist anymore. So it's all, computer rendered or processed or something. And it's like, has all of that art been lost? Has all that craft been lost? Probably not, or it could be resurrected, I suppose. But is it financially viable to do so in the face of all these new and more efficient tools? Right? So it's the whole John Henry thing, right? The steam drill versus John Henry, the steel driving man. On a sort of sentimental human capability level, you want John Henry to win. But at the end of the day, the steam drill is just faster and more efficient and more cost-effective and doesn't tire the same way that human muscle does. So what do? Can you stand in the way of progress? And is this progress if it's going to start subsuming craft and art? Quote, these tools were designed to undermine traditional narrative craftsmanship. Well, there you go, said UAE-based filmmaker Faisal Hashmi. Quote, what is film if not the vision of a storyteller using their own experiences to make you feel something? If you remove that process, is it really a film? Unquote. Hashmi doubts AI-produced movies will ever fully replace human-made works, but still admits AI could be useful as a support tool for real creators. Well, if they're real creators and they create an entire work based on nothing but AI, or to help tweak things that they don't want to pay somebody else to do, 6 of one thing, half a dozen of the other. Not all critics share that view. UAE professor Razan Takash warns that Showrunner could replace deep filmmaking education with shallow film prompting. She compared it to trying to become a bodybuilder by having someone else do the lifting for you. again, and this isn't cheering on the idea of AI destroying craft and art, but every technological advancement that would replace human labor with something mechanical does that. That's been the case for hundreds and hundreds of years. So it's not a new complaint, although AI might be far more existential in its threat, I suppose. Others will see opportunity instead of danger in AI filmmaking. Mohammed Mamdouh, filmmaker and assistant professor at the American University of Sharjah, argues that AI tools can level the playing field for overlooked creators. Uh-oh. That sounds like a quality of outcome to me. Ugh. He calls it, quote, not the death of cinema, but the rebirth. Oh. The numbers suggest the technology won't be going away. I would be surprised if it ever did. Industry projections show the AI film market rising from $1.28 billion in 2024 to $1.6 billion in 2025. The AI film market, are there money-making AI films out there right now? And reaching $14 billion by 2033. Mamdouh believes filmmakers who refuse to adapt risk being pushed aside entirely. His advice, get in on the ground floor, help shape the use of AI in entertainment, or prepare to be left behind. And this one was written by our very own Chris Brawley, who you can see regularly on Midnight's Edge in the morning, and also over on the Bleeding Fool channel. So there you go, guys. We're entering into the future where you can choose your own adventure. Boy, that movie sure sucked. I can make it better. And if I do make it better, you know who owns that? Amazon. It didn't say so in the article here, but I bet you dollars to donuts, if you use Showrunner on Amazon to improve a movie, to do a fan edit of something or a TV show to the point where it's even better than the original and people love it better than the original, Amazon gets all of the credit and all the money. That's just the way of things. Let's see. Zach Osborne is here. Hello. Advocate Jelly. If my choice is between AI slop and Hollywood slop, I choose AI slop. Oy. We'll see if that's still true years from now. Unfair Ophelia, hello. And, let's see. Mudmad? Am I mispronouncing things or something? Stillbirth, that is. Possibly so. Yeah, I have a feeling I already know what the answer would be, but I'd be curious to hear what Script Doctor has to say about this. I'm sure he already has made some comments somewhere, but... Yeah, Zach Osborne. Yeah, I don't know why YouTube does the real name sometimes, channel name thing sometimes. Yeah, we were talking about that last night on the Undoomed stream. It seems to vary every 3 or 4 days or so. Some days it shows everybody's chosen names. Most times it's showing now people's, at names for some reason. YouTube, fix your shit, as a ranting monkey might say. But yeah, so AI movies. Is there a movie or a TV show that you think you could fix with AI? I could think of a couple. But I don't know why I'd want to save the people that do things badly from themselves. And especially let Amazon take the credit for it or the money for it if somebody else decides to watch it. Like if somebody did completely fix, quote unquote, The Last Jedi. And then you had millions and millions of views. Who gets the money for that? I guess I'm more interested to see what TV shows can I edit, or is it all original stuff? I didn't quite. The university people were talking about how you could edit existing storylines and things. So is Amazon going to provide users of this some kind of like bank of pre-approved material from existing TV shows and movies to play around with? Or I just see copyright and all types of interesting things happening because of this. Firefly Season 2. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, people will make their own dream sequels to things. Oh well, Time will tell. And only and I can only also imagine what the premium price is going to be for Amazon subscribers to be able to use it in the first place. So I can pay Amazon to make a TV show that Amazon will profit off of. Sounds great. Let's see. What shall we do next? Oh, how about... You guys like bunnies? I bet you like bunnies. I think my audience is the kind of audience that likes bunnies. My sister hates bunnies. Sister Scribe has a deathly fear of rabbits. She was like hissed at or bit by a bunny when she was like 5 or 6 or something, and she absolutely has a phobia about bunnies. So I'm sure that she's going to love this story. Rabbits with horns in Colorado are being called Frankenstein bunnies. Here's why. I call them Cthulhu worshippers. Tentacles growing out of the faces of rabbits. I'm telling you, the stars are right. He awakes at his house in Riley. It's coming. A group of rabbits in Colorado with grotesque, horn-like growths may seem straight out of a low-budget horror film, but scientists say there's no reason to be spooked. The furry creatures merely have a relatively common virus. I don't know. I've never seen a rabbit like that before. How about you? The cottontails recently spotted in Fort Collins are infected with the mostly harmless... I love that. It's mostly harmless. What percentage isn't it? The mostly harmless Shope papillomavirus, which causes wart-like growths that protrude from their faces like metastasizing horns. Viral photos have inspired a fluffle of unflattering nicknames, including Frankenstein bunnies, demon rabbits, and zombie rabbits. Now, I like either tentacle bunnies or Cthulhu bunnies, one of the two. But their affliction is nothing new, with the virus inspiring ancient folklore and fueling scientific research nearly 100 years ago. Oh, is this where the jackalope comes from? The virus likely influenced the centuries-old jackalope. I didn't even see it. Well, there you go. The virus likely influenced the centuries-old jackalope myth in North America, which told of a rabbit with antlers or horns, among other animal variations. The disease in rabbits also contributed to scientists' knowledge about the connection between viruses and cancer, such as the human papillomavirus that causes cervical cancer. The virus in rabbits was named after AP pop-up, was named after Dr. Richard E. Shope, a professor at the Rockefeller University who discovered the disease in cottontails in the 1930s. News about the rabbit sightings in Fort Collins, 65 miles north of Denver, started getting attention after residents started spotting them around town and posting pictures. Well, if it's so common, why is it a news story now? Caravan Hoos... Sorry, that's just a funny name. Caravan Hoos, a spokesperson for Colorado Parks and Wildlife, told the Associated Press on Wednesday that the agency has been getting calls about the rabbits seen in Fort Collins. But she said that it's not uncommon to see infected rabbits, especially in the summer, when the fleas and ticks that spread the virus are most active. The virus can spread from rabbit to rabbit, but not to other species, including humans and pets, she said. Yet. It's mostly harmless. I'm going to say yet. The growths resemble warts but can look like horns if they grow longer, Van Hoos said. You ain't just whistling Dixie. The growths don't harm rabbits unless they grow on their eyes or mouths and interfere with eating. Rabbits' immune systems are able to fight the virus, and once they do, the growths will disappear, she said. Well, that's good to know. I don't relish the idea of little cute bunnies having giant, nasty tentacles growing out of their heads for the rest of their lives. But, yeah, so there you go. Cthulhu rabbits. Bask in the glory of Cthulhu rabbit. Cthulhu rabbit Fatagan. Kiro Soldier, thank you so much. LOL, I have a funny story involving the jackalope. Okay, I'll bite. How funny is it? Now we have to go into serialized mode. So Kiro Soldier's about to regale us with the story of the jackalope. I await. Now, let's see. China would probably like to challenge that theory. Oh, yeah, about not spreading to humans? Yeah. Just make sure you don't get a rabbit at a wet market in Wuhan. And you should probably be okay. What about two pet rabbits? To pet rabbits or the pet rabbits? I don't know. Can pet rabbits get it too? And if it's harmless, well, I guess somebody will have a Cthulhu rabbit for a little while. Maybe. The dead man, yeah, mostly peaceful, just like mostly harmless. Yes, the protests were mostly peaceful, standing in front of an absolute inferno. Okay, well, I'm going to wait for Kiro Soldier. We'll do another story while I wait for Kiro Soldier to regale us with the jackalope story. Unless he was just teasing us. If this was just a tease like, I have a funny jackalope story. If that's all that was, that's fine. If that was just a tease. I don't mind a tease occasionally. Anyway. What else? Let's talk about a little bit of, how about some law enforcement? Oh, there it is. Hold on. Before I get to that, here we go. Kiro Soldier. My dad trolled a couple Indians, Oh, I see. When he brought them to a Texas roadhouse and they had a stuffed jackalope. He described it as the most vicious animal. Uh-oh. So he had some out-of-towners who were strangers in a strange land. That's the best time to start, like, infecting people with lore and legend. They don't know any better. All right, so a couple of individuals from India. Like, that is the vicious jackalope. It reminds me of the Fiji mermaid from the old Barnum and Bailey circus thing where they put a monkey trunk on top of a fish or whatever. Like, oh, it's the Fiji mermaid. Let's see. Now I gotta wait for part 2. Yeah, this is serialized chat stories. I'm on the edge of my seat. Like, I really am. Now, of course, when it comes to legendary creatures, there's one that isn't, and that's DogCatFox. Wowie, wow, wow. Yes, DogCatFox is not a legendary creature. He's sitting right here beside me. You don't believe in jackalopes, do you? Wowie, wow, wow. I don't know if that's a yes or a no. Okay. Do you believe that a jackalope is a real animal? Wowie, wow. Wow. Okay, I'll have to learn that dog some other time. Let's see. He spoke of how many men died just taking down that particular one. He later on heard them talking about it to their coworkers. That is how you spread a legend. Building a mystery. Most deadly creature on the plains. But yeah, let's talk about some law enforcement. You guys hear about what's going on in D.C.? I don't know if you heard about what's going on in D.C., but the D.C. police chief, boy oh boy, she sure made herself look good, or zerself look good this week. Let's see if this story talks about it. D.C. police chief retains position, but perhaps not as much power. Well, it didn't sound like the police chief knew what the power structure was as of a couple of days ago. City leaders are locked in a legal battle over how much say the Trump administration has to direct its police force. Well, given the fact that the District of Columbia is a district and not a state, and it's federalized for the most part. Admittedly, I'm not a lawyer, so let's see what the story says. D.C. officials who cast President Donald Trump's takeover of the city's police force as an opportunity at the start of the week had declared it an emergency by Friday, suing the administration over its attempt to install a, quote, emergency police commissioner, unquote, with the full powers of police chief and to eliminate policies limiting local police's collaboration with immigrant enforcement. The legal battle revolves around a question with a still murky answer as of Friday night. Who is ultimately in charge of law enforcement priorities in the nation's capital? That wasn't really the question that was asked the police chief. The police chief was asked, what is the chain of command right now? And the police chief was asked, I don't understand what you mean. Which seemed to indicate the chief of police of D.C. had no idea what a chain of command was. We found out later that the current chief of police of Washington, D.C. was formerly the chief diversity officer of the D.C. Police Department. And so much is made clear with that revelation. D.C. Police Chief Pamela A. Smith downplayed the takeover in her first communication to officers Monday, writing in an email reviewed by the Washington Post that, quote, "Our relationship working with federal partners is nothing new to MPD," unquote. But Friday, in a sworn declaration in U.S. District Court, she said that Attorney General Pam Bondi's order granting DEA head Terry Cole the full powers of the D.C. chief would, quote, upend the command structure of MPD, endangering the safety of the public and law enforcement officers alike, unquote. Well, if the numbers and the stories of crime in D.C. are to be believed, the current command structure of MPD is already endangering the safety of the public and law enforcement officers alike. So how could it get much worse? In the court filing, Smith said that the proposed new command structure would, quote, wreak operational havoc on the department. Yeah, because operationally speaking, the department's been working so well to this point. Quote, "The confusion and delays caused by this upending of the command structure will endanger public safety, placing the lives of MPD officers and district residents at grave risk," she said in the filing. Quote, "There is no greater risk to public safety and paramilitary organization than to not know who is in command," unquote. You're correct. And when you were asked what the chain of command was, you didn't understand what they were talking about. The mayor had to step in and try to, answer for you. Yet the city seemed unable to answer that question Friday morning. Oh, here we go. Asked who is actively issuing orders to officers in the wake of the Bondi order, a D.C. police spokesperson directed questions to the mayor's office. The mayor's office directed questions back to the D.C. police. Even U.S. District Judge Anna C. Reyes did not definitively answer the question in the hearing Friday, as she did not issue a ruling, but rather forged a compromise that kept police under local command. The administration backed off its claim that Cole would act with the powers of police chief, a move that Mayor Muriel E. Bowser celebrated in a statement Friday night. Quote, "I am pleased to be able to report that after a day in court and in accordance with home rule, Pamela Smith remains our chief of police, in command and control of the 3,100 men and women at the Metropolitan Police Department," Bowser said in a statement. She has been impressing many people, that chief of police. However, under the rewritten order from Bondi, Cole would direct the mayor to provide D.C. police for federal priorities. Direct the mayor to provide D.C. police for federal priorities. Okay, so he's still in charge. Bondi signaled that Cole would call on officers to assist in immigration enforcement, a violation of current D.C. police policies, and in clearing homeless encampments. As the legal battle played out in court, Cole addressed D.C. police officers for the first time since Bondi moved to appoint him as, quote, emergency police commissioner. According to an ex-post from the D.C. Police Union, Cole attended the 1st Police District Friday evening roll call and told officers that the, quote, chain of command is still in place and to follow their lawful orders, unquote. Well, not the previous chain of command, because now you're part of it. Okay. Even as questions mount about who holds more power, D.C. residents have seen the law enforcement presence around the city spike over the course of the week, with more than 1,750 officers and agents participating in the federal crackdown overnight Thursday, according to a White House official. Federal agents sporting FBI, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, and Homeland Security Investigations vests swarmed 3/10 at Washington Circle on Thursday night, but drove away without evicting anyone. Great, I guess. By Friday, videos posted to social media show D.C. police had returned and cleared the tents, despite some people receiving city health department notices allowing them to remain for several more days. Nearly 30 cars were stopped as part of an operation D.C. police characterized as standard traffic safety compliance checkpoint at a busy intersection in northwest Washington on Wednesday night, but dozens of onlookers gathered when they noticed ICE officers appeared to be questioning the drivers who had originally been stopped for minor infractions like seatbelt violations or broken taillights. And a weekly comedy show in Columbia Heights turned into an impromptu protest when witnesses say roughly 30 law enforcement officers, including U.S. Border Patrol, gathered to arrest a 25-year-old man riding an illegal dirt bike. Well, zero tolerance is zero tolerance, I guess. And if you have a safety compliance checkpoint, you're allowed to check people's IDs. If they have them, great. If they don't, hey, Border Patrol. In an ex-post Friday, Bondi touted 189 arrests in D.C. since Trump tapped federal law enforcement to police the nation's capital this week. Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers account for 75 of those arrests, according to the Post. Bondi's order Thursday sought to abolish policies limiting D.C. police's cooperation with ICE, signaling the Trump administration's desire to use its takeover of D.C. police to crack down on immigration. Over Wednesday and Thursday nights, more than half of the arrests reported by the White House were for immigration enforcement, though it is unclear if they were made with direct involvement from D.C. police. I still don't, to this day, I do not understand this moral righteousness that local police departments have over not assisting with the enforcement of federal laws, especially when it comes to immigration. Doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. It is so stupid. It is, cutting off your nose to spite your face kind of thing. It's just so dumb. I got a couple of videos on it in my Expatriate Games playlist that they might as well be videos and declarations by police departments from today, even though they were videos from back in like 2017 or 2018 or something. So silly. Though federal forces have been visible across the city all week, from National Guard troops and Humvees near the base of the Washington Monument on Wednesday to more than a dozen law enforcement vehicles parked outside a southeast public housing complex Thursday, no federal officers were spotted at the scene of the district's 100th homicide this year, the first homicide after Trump said he was federalizing D.C. police. Well, obviously, that means that homicide is Trump's fault, I guess. Tymark Wells of Northwest Washington was fatally shot around 7 p.m. Monday within half a mile of two of the high-profile homicides Trump cited in his news conference as examples of crime that federal law enforcement could help prevent. Yeah, could. Not will. D.C. officers at the scene Monday evening said no federal agencies had participated in the response to the shooting. The power struggle will continue to play out in court next week, when Reyes is expected to rule on whether Trump can direct D.C. police officers to enforce immigration laws. In the meantime, both D.C. police and federal agencies will continue to patrol the district as leadership grapples to establish authority. Oh, boy. There you go. So the power struggle continues. What is the chain of command? Does anybody know? Can Trump effectively rein in D.C. crime with the same kind of efficiency that he reined in border security? Time will tell. What do you guys think? There are four lights. It's true. If you're told often enough that it's there, they're there. The DEI final boss. Well, if Pamela Smith is the final boss to DEI, then I think we're in good shape. Because she didn't seem very imposing when she had no idea what a chain of command was. So, Kiever Dam. Some Karen at the beach falsely accused me of filming her family a little bit ago. LMAO. You were just probably looking at something on your phone, right? It's like I saw a couple of those gym girl videos where, the girl goes to the gym and she films herself exercising and tries to generate some kind of manufactured offense at some guy walking by and turning his head in her direction or something. It was some guy that was sitting on a bench and he had his phone out. And you could easily see that the angle he was holding his phone, the camera was not looking anywhere near this girl, but she had subtitles that were saying, "Caught this creep filming me." And he wasn't even paying attention to her. On her own video, he wasn't even paying attention to her. But he's trying to turn this guy into some kind of creepazoid. Yeah, I love that stuff. So it is a public place, but I had no reason to do such a thing. She only thought I did because I happened to point my phone towards them when I was... Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Your family is so special. Someone's got to record you. They should lose their jobs. Well, if you can't fire the whole police force for bad leadership, if someone's just... It is sometimes a reasonable excuse, I was just following orders. If some police officer is being restrained by local statute, policy, or dictate from above to do this or to not to do that, you got to go to the top. This is the same thing we saw in like Portland and Seattle, where you had activist city councils or police department heads who were completely in the tank for woke nonsense, and the police officers. You saw, like, I remember, like in the wake of the Summer of Love, in I think it was in Portland and particularly in Seattle, you saw an exodus of like veteran police officers who were just like, I'm not allowed to do my job anymore. I'm not allowed to protect my community, and I can't operate like this, so I'm out. There was, I forget what it was. There was like some long, some veteran police officer. I think it was Seattle. He wrote this really long treatise about his career as a police officer, and then about halfway down, he starts telling everybody about why he's leaving. Not because he doesn't love his community, but because the people he has no faith in the people in charge to actually do anything to enforce the law or protect the people, and he can't be a part of that, so he had to leave. Really sad. So I have a feeling that more often than not, you have a lot of really good, well-meaning officers out there who are constrained by morons. And I think that's probably what's been going on in D.C. for a while now, especially if what commends you to be the chief of police is the fact you were the chief diversity officer. That's almost a punchline in and of itself. But anyway, other punchlines. Did you know that we need to fix boys, everybody? Well, maybe the tide is starting to turn on how you fix boys. Maybe. Boy Crisis of 2025. Now, this is a long article. I'll see if I want to read it all. I might just read the first bit and some of the end. But this is a guest essay by two people, Robert Putnam and Richard Reeves. They're social theorists. In the early years of the 20th century, America had a boy problem. Boys on the street making trouble. Boys becoming truants. Boys getting caught up in crime. The problem spread across the United States alongside the disruptions of technological change, immigration, and growing socioeconomic inequality. Policymakers stepped in, with universal public schooling, for example. But it was the civic response that was truly extraordinary. In less than a decade, most of today's major child-serving organizations were founded. Big Brothers, 1904, the Federated Boys Club, 1906, Boy Scouts, 1910, by technological change, immigration, and growing inequality. Since 2010, suicide rates among young men have risen by a third. They are now higher than they are among middle-aged men. The share of college degrees among men has fallen to 41%, lower than the women's share in 1970. Yeah, college degrees in what, though? 1 in 10 men aged 20 to 24 is effectively doing nothing, neither enrolled in school nor working. That's twice the rate in 1990. This crisis demands a response equivalent to what the progressive era delivered, not just in public policy, but equally important from our civic institutions. I wonder if they will get into any theories on why this is. Let's see. Today's leaders have been slow to recognize the extent of male troubles, in part because of a fear of being seen as somehow anti-woman. But alarm bells are ringing. Yeah, I wonder who propagated that idea recently. Since, say, 2014-ish, 2015, early 2010s. Governor Gavin Newsom of California just signed an executive order that was hard to imagine a few months ago. Oh, did he resign? Oh, no. It offers a comprehensive plan to tackle what it describes as, quote, California's growing crisis of connection and opportunity for men and boys, unquote. Mr. Newsom said the order was, quote, about showing every young man that he matters, and there's a path for him of purpose, dignity, work, and real connection, unquote. Yeah, after 2 decades of telling boys and men that they are toxic, that they are malfunctioning girls, that anything that men and boys feel themselves naturally inclined to have an interest in is actually just a pathway to becoming a criminal rapist. But hey, there's hope for you yet, boys, men. Similar pushes have been announced by Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan, Governor Spencer Cox of Utah, and Governor Wes Moore of Maryland. One of the authors of this piece, Richard Reeves, is working on these plans with many of these same governors. Okay, when are you going to start talking about from whence this rot doth originate? This male malaise is not just about jobs and diplomas. It's also a crisis of connection, as men and boys are increasingly detached from civic, familial, and social life. They are lost, in part because they are lonely. 25% of boys and men aged 15 to 34 told Gallup they had experienced loneliness, quote, a lot, unquote, on the previous day. 1 in 7 young men reports that he has no close friends, up from 3% in 1990. 2/3 of men under the age of 30 think that, quote, no one cares if men are okay, unquote. Consider the despair implicit in that last statistic. Yes, let's consider it. Now, will you consider, again, where this comes from? Why this change? Why this increase since 2010 or thereabouts? Too many boys and young men are unwoven from the fabric of our society. Why? In sociological terms, they lack social capital. Why? This is dangerous for them and everyone else. These lonely, detached young men can become susceptible to reactionary voices, mostly online, who turn legitimate suffering into dangerous grievances. But it's important not to confuse the symptoms with the cause, which is disconnection. The cause is disconnection. Okay, who cut the cord? Who was holding the scissors? This is not a novel pattern driven solely by social media. You ain't just whistling Dixie. Hannah Arendt learned from Nazi recruiting in the 1930s that with the breakdown of established social and political structures, lonely, socially isolated young men are vulnerable to totalitarian ideology and appeals to violence. But it is not all their fault. For too long, mainstream institutions have failed to acknowledge and address the real challenges facing boys and men. They don't need more wagging fingers, they need helping hands. You bring up... Okay. I'm going to ask again. Are you going to address where this has been coming from? Who has been vilifying and demonizing boys and men simply for being what they are and hammering into their heads that they are evil and damaged from birth? Doing more for boys and men does not mean doing less for girls and women, of course. Oh, well, you could have fooled me. I don't know. I've been listening to feminists and nut jobs for the last 20 years. Saying that, oh, well, there's plenty of pie for everybody, while chiding boys and men for complaining about being made fun of or denigrated. You shouldn't complain. Don't you know how women are mistreated? There is plenty of work to do, for example, in tackling the gender pay gap. Sorry. You know, I had some sort of sideways nascent hopes that this article was going to actually be confessing to the fact that boys and men need to not be immediately criminalized for being what they are. Oh, but the gender pay gap. There is plenty of work to do, for example, in tackling the gender pay gap, increasing the representation of women in leadership roles, especially in big tech, and widening access to reproductive health care. Wow, an article in support of boys and men that is obviously just feminism in a Trojan horse. Okay. As all the politicians leading on the issue correctly insist, gender equality is not a zero-sum game. We can do two things at once. We can take better care of girls and boys. Ah, ha, ha. Ah. Okay. How do you propose to do that? Quote, our mission to uplift men and boys isn't in conflict with our values to leave no one behind. It's in concert with them, unquote, Mr. Moore declared in his 2025 State of the State address. Mr. Moore. Okay. Quote, as the father of a son and daughter, I want both of my children growing up with their honoring and God-given opportunities, unquote. Okay, so how do you propose to solve for this? There is certainly a large role here for public policy. More male teachers, more apprenticeships, male-friendly mental health services, longer paid leave for fathers. Okay, well, you're talking about sort of like equal rights amendment kind of stuff where more male teachers. You don't need more male teachers. You need to stop vilifying men and boys as toxic. Not once in this article so far have you mentioned toxic masculinity as a rallying cry for feminists and a cudgel with which to beat over the heads of men and boys for the last 15, 20 years. Come on now. Longer paid leave for fathers, but this is also a civic crisis requiring a civic response. Early in the 20th century, the boy problem generated sensational media and cultural anxiety. Civic and political leaders worried about roving hordes of uncivilized and lawless boys who ran the streets and caused a ruckus. And my oh my, look how that isn't happening now. Industrialization had boomed in the decades after the Civil War. What does this have to do with anything? Now, what are you doing now? When are you going to address what's been going on for the last 2 decades? I'm skipping by all the history stuff here because it's completely irrelevant to this. Okay. As Julia Grant, the preeminent scholar of the boy problem, writes, quote, with a growing recognition that boys of the dangerous classes would not be easily corralled into schools, reformers created new spaces that would provide greater opportunities for boys to be redeemed through the expression of their boyish natures. So you mean organizations that valued and encouraged healthy behavior, and didn't see masculinity as a disease? Okay, so the YMCA, the Big Brothers, the Boy Scouts, yeah. Why did these new clubs actually work? Well, I don't know. Maybe because they didn't tell boys and men they were flawed. Why did these new clubs actually work? Across America, tens of thousands of worried adults suddenly realized that they could do something practical about the youth crisis in their own towns and cities. Take the case of the Boy Scouts, founded in Britain, whose membership would rise steadily for more than half a century after its establishment in America in 1910. For reformers hoping to attract kids to a setting that would improve their deportment, okay, the Boy Scouts represented a nifty blend of fun, hiking and outdoor games, and moral education, the endlessly repeated Scout oath pledging to be trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, and so on. And so on? Okay. Seems kind of dismissive. Robert Baden-Powell, the founder of the Boy Scouts, echoing the industrial language of the era, described it as a character factory. Yes, you're focusing the energy that boys naturally have into constructive activities for both knowledge, socialization, and character building. You're not seeing boys as inherently flawed, but they need direction, just like most children do. When are you going to address the rallying cry of toxic masculinity? Come on. Okay, more than a century ago, fewer organizations. Okay. All right. This is where civic institutions should come in, providing places and spaces where boys and young men learn what it means to be a grown man. But in 2025, they are struggling to fulfill that role for 2 main reasons. Okay, are either of these reasons the constant vilification of masculinity and men and boys in general? First, there are simply fewer organizations with an explicit mission to serve boys and men. Does Big Brothers not exist anymore? Oh yeah, the Boy Scouts have been gender neutralized. Most of the ones formed during the last boy crisis have gone co-ed, sometimes as a result of a merger. Most now serve more girls than boys. An exception is Boys and Girls Clubs, which renamed itself in 1990 and still serves a slightly higher share of boys than girls. Okay? In other cases, previously male-serving institutions have gone co-ed, while their sister organizations have remained single-sex. Yeah, it almost feels like it's diminishing the importance of boys in our society and elevating girls. Are you going to talk about that? Boy Scouts no longer exist, having rebranded as Scouting America after the controversial decision to admit girls. They already had Girl Scouts. They didn't need to bring girls in. Do the Girl Scouts still exist as an independent organization? Of the roughly 1 million scouts in the movement today, around 20% are girls, but there are also more than 1 million girls in Girl Scouts, which remains a single-sex organization. All told, there are now 50% more girls than boys in scouting. The YMCA banned gender discrimination in 1978 and now has a mission to support the well-being of all children, young people, and the wider community, regardless of gender. Most YMCA members are female, and more than two-thirds of YMCA employees, including strikingly all 6 senior executives, are women. Wow! Most volunteers are women, too. On every measure, the Y is now a female-oriented institution. The YWCA remains a single-sex organization with an explicit mission to empower women. Are we seeing a pattern forming here? The gradual abolition of organizations. Okay, I don't want to talk about the organizations. I want to talk about the cultural zeitgeist. I want to talk about Me Too, Time's Up, toxic masculinity, he for she, on and on and on. Talk about those things. Big brothers and sisters, the challenges facing boys and men today. Okay. Not once. Not once. Guys, what's really, really hurting boys and men in these days is the lack of organizations exclusively for them, which I think that is not a wrong statement, but it's not just that. What led? They don't even talk about what led to this. It's like, oh, well, this just happened. It just because of mergers and things, and but it's not a sign of other things that took place or a narrative that's been pushed for the last 15, 20 years. No. It's just just sort of a natural evolution of things. It's one of those articles where I'm just like, you're right on the cusp of being honest with yourself and your audience, but you're apparently not willing to cross that line. Not once in here did the phrase toxic masculinity come up. Neither was Me Too mentioned, or Time's Up, or he for she, or any of that stuff. Or third wave feminism, or intersectional nothing. I had hope. I had some nascent hope there for a minute that someone was wising up. Oh well. Dead Man, I heard it's fun to stay at the YMCA. I've heard that too. And you know who told me it was? A whole bunch of manly men. That's right. A whole bunch of manly men told me that. But who'd be singing that song today? And the Dead Man, again, thank you so much. I learned more in Boy Scouts than I did in high school. I was in Cub Scouts. I went all the way up through Webelow. I never made it to Boy Scouts. I forget exactly what the reason was. I think it was timing or my interest or something. But you learn some practical things. You learn socialization. You learn leadership skills. I remember a whole bunch of little things that I still remember from my Boy Scout days, my Cub Scout days. And of course the stories that I heard from other guys who had been in Boy Scouts and onward. Yeah, it's harnessing the interests and energy of boys into something productive that builds character and teaches skills. That's and useful stuff too. That's what those things are for. And they have whittled those away in both importance and effectiveness over the last several years. Because, we can't have places where there are only boys around because that engenders toxic masculinity. Going on hikes and chopping down trees and starting fires and stuff. These are the tools of the incel or something. It's just... Anyway. I really, really want to see a change, a significant sea change take place and an accounting happen for what has been done to and the narrative that's been thrust upon men and boys over the last several years. And I keep thinking that maybe it's going to happen. This article, when I first saw it and thought, maybe this is one step towards that. Nope. It's still passing the buck. It's still just kind of like, looking the other way. Oh, no. Really, guys, it's just that, the Boy Scouts are not the Boy Scouts anymore. It's just Scouting America. It was controversial to let girls in, but somehow it's not controversial to maintain an exclusively gender-specific Girl Scouts over here. We won't talk about the logic behind that. We won't talk about what influenced that to happen. We'll just say that, it happened, and then obviously that's something that needs to change somehow. But without addressing the root cause of what's been driving these decisions, we won't talk about that. Not worth talking about. Advocatus, I quit Boy Scouts before getting Eagle. All I needed was the public service part and said, fuck it. That dang public. I ain't serving you to get my Eagle. Hell with it. Dead Man, survival skills, leadership skills, basic morality, and more. Yep. Character building. How to help encourage boys to be good men. But when you say that masculinity itself is a problem, and any expression of it, one way or the other, is tied to the worst possible behaviors of humankind, or is a gateway drug to the abuse of women and others, it's really hard to escape. You're kind of just damned for what you are, not for what you do, and you constantly have to apologize for it. Yeah, they mention, the self-deletion rate among boys and men has gone up. Are you going to ask why? Are you even going to entertain the possibility? But the gender wage gap is still a real thing, guys, and we need more representation of women in tech. Obviously, because we do. Irritating. Anyway, let's talk about a boy. A boy with a dream. A dream to get clout. Clout in the clouds. And then made a boo-boo. U.S. teen influencer has been stranded in the Chilean Antarctic since landing without permission. Yes, Kit Clout Chaser. If you get that joke, then you're an old. Santiago, Chile. What was intended as a fundraising mission for cancer research has become a nightmare for American teen influencer Ethan Guo. Never heard of him. Who has been stuck since June in a remote location in Chilean territory in Antarctica. I didn't know that Chile controlled a territory in Antarctica, but you learn something new every day. Authorities say Guo landed his small plane illegally after providing false flight plan information to officials who opened an investigation. Well, now, your first mistake was, flying into territory you didn't have permission to be in. Your second mistake was lying to officials. So, Guo made headlines last year when the then 19-year-old, okay, so he's a legal adult. Okay, the then 19-year-old began a trip in an attempt to become the youngest person to fly solo to all 7 continents and at the same time collect donations for research into childhood cancer. Okay, well, fair play on the charity effort. Obviously didn't plan this very well. As part of his trip, the teen who identifies as Asian American, okay, what does that have to do with anything? Planned to go to the Antarctic, but according to the authorities, he lied to officials by providing authorities with false flight plan data. Prosecutors said he had been authorized to only fly over Punta Arenas, but that he kept going south, heading for Antarctica in his Cessna 182Q, a single-engine light aircraft known for its versatility. Guo was charged on June 29th with handing false information to ground control and landing without authorization, but on Monday, a judge dropped the charges as part of an agreement with his lawyers and Chile's prosecutors. It requires the teen to give a $30,000 donation to a children's cancer foundation within 30 days to avoid trial. It's one of the more positive bribes I could think of. But he must also leave the country as soon as conditions allow and is prohibited from entering Chilean territory for 3 years. Okay. On Monday, after the judge's ruling, Guo told the Associated Press in a text message that he was relieved by the outcome. Okay. For the past 6 weeks since being charged, he has stayed at a military base. He was not forced to stay there, only to remain in Chilean territory, but because of the severe winter in that part of the southern hemisphere, there haven't been any flights available he could take, and he has been unable to fly his Cessna. Chilean prosecutor Cristian Crisoto on Monday told reporters that Guo's plane, quote, does not have the capabilities to make a flight without providing details. But the American teen influencer... What does that even mean anymore? Can I call myself an influencer? Chat, have I ever, either through my actions or the material that I've covered, have I ever changed your mind or informed you of something or caused you to want to look up something else? Have I ever, in any way, shape, or form, influenced you without telling you to do something? I don't give orders or anything. Has that ever happened at all? I just need one of you to say yes. And I can call myself an influencer. I can put myself in that category. Because it doesn't mean anything anymore. So I might as well have it. But I want to have it at least, ostensibly legitimately. If I can. Quote, I remain in Antarctica awaiting approval for my departure flight, Guo told AP. Quote, I sincerely hope they give it to me soon so that I and my plane can continue with my original mission, unquote. The prosecutor's office said Guo must pay all costs for his aircraft security and personal maintenance during his stay at the military facility. He also needs to cover all expenses for his return. How much money does this kid have? Does he have influencer money that he's going to be able to pay all this stuff off and donate to Children's Cancer Foundation $30,000? Does the $30,000 have to come from his own pocket? I mean, it requires the teen to give a $30,000 donation. Is it just the money that he's collected? Can he do a GoFundMe or something and take care of it? I have questions. I also question the wisdom of doing this in the first place, but then what do I know? I'm not a pilot. Deadman, Scribe, you've influenced me to subscribe to your channel and watch your videos. Hey, there you go. See, have you ever hit the like button? Well, of course, I ask people to hit the like button. Well, the TEDx speakers did that, but I blame you. Okay, you know what? I'll take the vicarious influencing of other people. I mean, if you hadn't watched my channel, then you would not have seen those TEDx speakers, so I'm really giving them the platform to help you along. JB, you said Six String Samurai was good, Scribbles, LOL, and it was. It's true. Six String Samurai is a good movie. It's a fun movie. One of the precursors for Fallout New Vegas. That and, Boy and His Dog and A Canticle for Leibowitz and that kind of thing. Well, actually, Canticle for Leibowitz was kind of an influence for Fallout in general, not just New Vegas, but you get my meaning. Daryl Odell, somehow there's no outrage over Chile enforcing their immigration laws. Uh-oh! Uh-oh. Yeah, well, I mean, lying to authorities while entering the country or territory, he hasn't been deported yet. Been fined a whole bunch. You influenced me to take Tylenol. Oh, well, I'm okay. I'm not a doctor. I'm not telling you what to do with your health. All right. Well then. Yep. So anyway, there you go. Teen pilot stranded in Chile. Just another day of the week. And do I want to do anything else? Is there anything else I want to do? Do I have anything in my video vault here that might be worth looking at for a minute? No, that's I'm not going to do a TEDx talk today. A TEDx talk today would be kind of weird. I thought I had something relatively recent I could look at. No, that's about Jonestown. That's not recent. That's a TEDx thing. That's a TEDx thing. Strategies for achieving gender equality and promoting diversity and inclusion. Forbes Middle East. I think I grabbed that just because of the inherent irony of the location in which the Forbes is having that talk and then the title of it. Gender equality and promoting diversity and inclusion, Forbes, Middle East. Yeah. But that's like a 23-minute long panel discussion. I don't know that would interest anybody. And, I wouldn't want to unduly influence anybody. I'm going to call myself an influencer. I'm not a doctor. I'm an influencer. Might as well be. I mean, House MD, he did more influencing than he did surgery. Just by, telling people stuff and, making them solve their own problems and things. Anyway. I think, guys, that's the show. Let's see. Programming note. Monday. I should be on the panel for Midnight's Edge in the morning, talking about the box office and all that good stuff and movies and things. Perhaps even the AI story from Bleeding Fool if Chris Brawley is present. And then at 12:30 p.m. Pacific, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, there will be the next episode of DEI Death Watch. I'll take a look at the doubling down and demise, hopefully, of DEI in the world. And also, did you know I have a Discord server? Well, I think all of you know I have a Discord server, but in the off chance someone's watching in the future and doesn't know I have a Discord server, there's a link to the Discord server in the chat right now. Click on that link. You'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word will tell me that you're not a bot. Actually watch the stream and have thus earned the right, the privilege, the entitlement to join the Discord server. And today's secret word is Chile. Just say hello, Chile. Or you can say chili, like the food. I'll accept either one. And I'll know that you watch the show. Outside of that, you of course can find me Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for the aforementioned TED Excellence, where I'll take a look at another off-brand TED Talk, sometimes real TED Talks, for entertainment and enlightenment. And outside of that, I want to thank all of my moderators for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated, thank you so much for your generosity, whether it's to me or to the donation link at the top of the chat box to the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. Please take a look at that if you haven't already. And beyond that, everybody, I hope you enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I think I might go lay down and take a nap, because I am the tired. But whatever you choose to do, I hope you're all safe and well. And if you're not well, please get well soon. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.